He ran. Not as a disciple chasing truth, not as a man fulfilling duty. He ran because love demanded it. Because the one who had held him close, who had whispered his name like a promise, was gone. The wind lashed against his skin, but he felt nothing. His chest burned, but not from exhaustion, from the unbearable weight of a world without him. Mary Magdalene's words echoed in his mind. They have taken the Lord's body away. No, the tomb came into view. The stone moved, the entrance, gaping, waiting, empty. His hands trembled as he reached the doorway. But there was no warmth to grasp, no arms to fall into, only silence where love had been. The Bible speaks of many kinds of love. Shadows danced across twisted faces, voices rising in a chaotic storm of condemnation. They seized him, bound his hands as if he were a criminal. He did not fight. He let them. The beloved disciple followed, his heart a hammering ache. He stayed close but not too close, hovering at the edges of firelight. What could he do but watch? Then came the first blow. A fist crashing into the face he knew so well. He flinched. Another strike, blood at the corner of his mouth. Then the whip, over and over, the sound of leather tearing into flesh, the sharp intake of breath. He could not look. He turned away, nails biting into his palms, shame coiling in his stomach. But then, through the pain, through the torment, Jesus turned to him. Their eyes met, and in that moment, through blood and agony, he gave him a look, steady, certain, a silent promise. It will be well. The crown of thorns came next, pressed deep until blood trickled down his face. The disciple clenched his fists. He wanted to stop it, to throw himself between them, but he couldn't. And then came the cross. He stood at its base, the world closing in. He could not leave. The others had scattered, but he remained, his feet rooted to the dust-stained earth. Jesus' skin, pale, streaked with blood. His breath, ragged. But his eyes still found him. A trembling breath, a final act of love. He wanted to speak, to reach for him, to do something, but all he could do was stand there, heartbreaking, as the sky darkened and the last warmth of the world faded away. The tomb came into view, and his breath caught. He gripped the edge, fingers pressing into cold rock. He could not step into a world where Jesus no longer existed, but he had to. Inside, the linen lay there, folded, untouched. No body, no goodbye. For days he wandered, lost in the silence he had left behind. Rumors swirled in hushed voices. Some said he was alive. Others whispered of stolen remains, of tricks and desperate hopes. The beloved disciple said nothing. Hope was a dangerous thing. He had clung to it before, and it had left him standing at the foot of a cross, watching love bleed away. Then, a week later, everything changed. "Peace be with you." The voice shattered the silence. He turned too fast, heart pounding, breath stolen from his lungs. And there he was, Jesus, alive, forgetting himself, forgetting everything but the ache of longing that had split his soul apart. He surged forward, his arms wrapped around him before he could think, holding him in a grip that spoke of sleepless nights, of whispered prayers to a God who had felt too far away. Jesus let him. He held him just as tightly. His hand slid up to the back of his head, fingers tangling in his hair, and for a moment, nothing else existed. "You left," the disciple breathed, voice shaking. Jesus' lips curved in the faintest smile. "I told you I would return." He pulled back just enough to look at him, to take in the warmth of his eyes, the softness there, the silent understanding. "You believe because you see me?" A tear slipped free, but he did not care. "I believed because I knew you." Time unraveled. For days, Jesus remained, walking, speaking, being. It was almost as if things had never changed. But deep down, the disciple knew. The way Jesus looked at them, the way he lingered as if memorizing their faces. He would not stay. They sat by the fire, speaking in quiet tones. No grand speeches, no final revelations. Just love in the silence, in the way Jesus placed a hand on his, in the way the disciple did not let go. Then the moment came. Jesus rose. "I go to my Father." The words shattered something in him. His breath hitched, his fingers tightening around Jesus' wrist. "Take me with you," he whispered. Jesus smiled, sadness touching the corners of his eyes. "Not yet." The disciple swallowed, throat burning. "Then don't go." Jesus cradled his face, fingers tracing the curve of his jaw as if trying to etch it into memory. "I will come back for you," he whispered. The disciple shut his eyes, leaning into the touch, unwilling to let go. The ache settled deep, a hollow grief before the loss even came. Then, light, a radiance that was not of this world. And he was gone. A love so deep, so undeniable, yet history chose silence. Buried beneath doctrine, left for those who dare to see. But one stands apart, hidden in plain sight. This is the story of a love that was never named, yet never hidden. Peter was the rock. Thomas was the doubter. But one disciple was known only by a single haunting title, the one whom Jesus loved. Not admired, not respected, loved. His name is never given, as if the truth of their bond was too much to be spoken outright. Was this just devotion? Or was it something more? Something the writers could only hint at, leaving us to uncover for ourselves. He had spent years by Jesus' side, not just as a disciple, but as something more, something unspoken, something woven into every stolen glance, every quiet moment away from the others. "You will never leave me," he had murmured once. Half a question, half a plea. Jesus had only smiled. "I am with you always." And now, he was gone. "Where are you?" His voice cracked. "How could you leave me?" But the only answer was silence. It wasn't just grief. It was the unbearable absence of the one who had been his heart, his world, his everything. The sea stirred under the dim light of dawn, waves lapping against the shore. The scent of fish and damp wood clung to the air as he worked through the morning's first haul. Nets, heavy with the weight of the sea, were dragged onto the sand, water pooling around calloused feet. The rhythm was familiar: pull, untangle, cast again. It was the life he had always known. And then, a voice. "Follow me." It wasn't loud, yet it carried through the air with a weight that stilled everything around him. He turned, and for the first time, he saw him. Jesus stood at the shore, the rising sun catching in his hair, in his eyes. He was unlike any man the soon-to-be disciple had ever known. Calm, certain, as if he had always been waiting for this moment. His fingers tightened around the coarse rope in his hands. He should have asked something. "Who are you? What do you mean? Why me?" But the words never left his throat, because deep down, he already knew. The nets slipped from his grasp, the rough fibers brushing against his fingertips one last time. Around him, the voices of his fellow fishermen faded into a distant hum, the familiar world pulling away like the tide. He took a step, then another, his pulse steady, but his heart racing with something he couldn't name. The shore remained behind him, unchanged, yet he knew nothing would ever be the same. And step by step, he followed. The fire crackled in the stillness of night. The others slept, their breathing slow even. But not him, not Jesus. The beloved disciple sat across from him, watching the glow dance across his skin. He had seen that face laugh, seen it wear the weight of the world. But tonight, it was unreadable. He hesitated. Then he moved closer, their shoulders nearly touching. "Why are you still awake?" Jesus' voice was quiet. The disciple didn't know what to say. He reached out, a hand on his wrist, a fleeting touch, too brief, too much. He wanted to hold that hand forever, but the touch was gone, leaving only warmth in its wake. The disciple swallowed, pulse unsteady, unsure if he should speak or let the silence hold them. Jesus had pulled away, but he had not moved far. Their knees nearly brushed, the firelight flickering between them. "You shouldn't be awake either," the disciple finally murmured. Jesus smiled, not the broad, open kind he shared with the crowds, but something smaller, something meant only for him. The disciple's fingers twitched. He could have reached out. He could have said something. But instead, he let the moments stretch between them, heavy with the things left unsaid. The room was heavy with something unspoken. Shadows stretched long against the walls, the weight of the evening pressing down on them all. Jesus spoke of betrayal, but the beloved disciple could only hear the strain in his voice, the quiet grief beneath his words. Without thinking, he leaned into him, his head against his chest, listening, feeling. The slow, steady rhythm of his heartbeat filled the silence, anchoring him, grounding him. He needed this, needed to feel him alive, to hold on to something real before the night unraveled everything. Jesus did not pull away. The others whispered among themselves, trying to understand, trying to name the traitor. But the beloved disciple only listened to the sound of him. He let the warmth of Jesus' presence surround him, the rise and fall of his breath against his cheek. He could have spoken, could have asked the question burning in his chest, "Who, Lord?" But words felt fragile, unnecessary. Instead, he only held on, hoping Jesus could feel what he could not say. Jesus' hand rested lightly against his back, a touch neither possessive nor fleeting. Just there, just enough, because soon there would be no warmth left to cling to. The torches burned against the night, flickering shapes of betrayal and dread.